Welcome to another edition of the Trend Crew Show. It's an exciting special edition. We have Kiana Williams, who will be interviewed by our youth interns, Najum, Summer, and Yasmin. Hey, Kiana, how you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Hello, today we're interviewing Kiana Williams, who recently graduated from Ball State University with the BS in nursing. We will be talking to her about her career and what motivates her activism. So could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Kiana. I am 22. I am from Minnesota, but I decided to go to school out of state in Indiana to pursue a degree in nursing. So then I just graduated a couple weeks ago with my RN license, so BSN, so bachelor's degree. What else? I like to volunteer either for activism or just around the community. Yeah. Any questions that you want to start with?
What about a nursing degree stuck out to you?
Oh, that's a good question. My mom is a nurse, so I grew up around like 10 years old watching her go to school. And so while she was doing like her assignments and studying, I would like help her, and then I would play like games. And then I kind of started in middle school realizing that I want to go into the medical field. And then about 8th grade is when I was like, I'll be a nurse. So yeah, been a long time.
How would you describe your college experience?
I'm a very quiet and laid back person, so my college experience is very different than typical freshman, sophomore. So when I started, I didn't really party. I kind of focused more on my books because I had the goal to be at the top of my class. And so the only way I think that I could achieve that is sticking hard to my books. I would go to like some events, such as like there would be like bingo nights, movie nights. I would do some like low-key things rather than like partying and stuff. But yeah.
What was going to Ball State like as a Black woman, since it is a predominantly white institution?
Yes, that's a good question. It was, in my opinion, a culture shock because I came from somewhere that wasn't, like my high school wasn't predominantly white, or it was, but it wasn't as noticeable, if that makes sense. So then when I went to school, being the only Black person in some of my classes was really weird. Once I got into like the nursing school part, there was only like 8 of us Black girls. So we all kind of stuck together and we made our own little group. So for the 4 years, we've all been together and sticking together. So as long as you can find someone that looks like you and believes the same things as you, then it made it better. But there were times where I was like, it's weird here. Like I'm uncomfortable. You don't know what you can and can't say. You don't know how you can go about your beliefs. But I'm also the type of person that I don't really care what people think. So if I believe that something to me matters, I'm going to show it, whether people surrounding me believe it or not.
What is the day-to-day activities like as a nurse?
It depends on the unit you're on. So a typical medical surgical, which is just people that come, it's before you go home. So they're on that unit for a couple of days because they're sick, but not super sick. So on that unit, you kind of just give them medications, do some physical assessments to check like their lungs and heart sounds. You want to sometimes get them up to walk because it's better to walk early than to wait. You do daily like hygiene care on every single patient, no matter what unit they're on. But then on an intensive care unit, which is the most high acuity, these patients can come in with gunshot wounds, seizures, car accidents. So they're going to typically have more care, and then they're going to have the same amount of care as a med-surg patient, but they're going to have specified treatment. So if they come in with a car accident, you might have to do neurological checks to make sure that their brain stem is working and stuff like that.
How did you get into activism?
I think so. When Philando Castile was killed, that's when I was in high school, I believe, or going into high school. So I wasn't of age to drive out anywhere, but I used my social media platform to spread my beliefs and I guess reach out to other people. And then once I got older, I was kind of more working with people in need. So that would be families that are considered poor to people, so they don't have a lot of money, and then homeless people, and then also special needs people is what I focused on more in high school. And then when George Floyd was killed, that's when I was more out in the front lines outside every day. So kind of differentiated in different activism work.
What part does mental health play into your activism?
Yes, since I am a nurse or going to be a nurse, mental health is very, very important because a lot of the patients that I have taken care of come in with some sort of mental health disease, crisis. So I've always had a urge to fight for their rights and make sure that their voices are heard. So it's sad to see a lot of the cases like related to police brutality are because they don't know how to handle mental health crisis. Every single person has some sort of mental health symptoms or disorder because that's just how our brain works. Not every single person, but a lot of people have some sort of anxiety disorder, depression. So being able to be aware of the signs and symptoms, be able to ask the questions that will make them feel comfortable is really important to me. I always see people and I wonder, like people that I work with that have mental health issues, I wonder how will the police interact with them? How will other people interact with them? So I'm just big on making sure that the stigma is destigmatized, if that makes sense.
How does your activism relate to the healthcare field?
Yes, so nursing in almost every state is going to be predominantly white because white people have more opportunities to become a nurse because of the money, college, the way they grew up. So being someone that is Black, I want to make sure that the people that look like me or the people that look like you or anybody that is considered a person of color is treated equally as a white person that's being cared for in the hospital. So if there's more people that look like me, I know that I can spread awareness, but also protect them within the healthcare.
How does COVID affect your future in nursing?
That's a good question. So now that COVID is considered settled down, there's less patients in the hospital with COVID, but a lot of units are split in half. So there's a COVID unit, or half is COVID patients and half is regular patients. But now that the Delta variant is out, I'm scared that it's going to be another lockdown and the cases are going to be more severe. So my unit could typically be all COVID patients, and just seeing that all of them are all COVID, what about the people that don't have COVID that have a crisis or that are in immediate danger? How are they going to be cared for if there's no beds for them because of COVID? So it's kind of prioritizing and making sure that we have enough room in the hospitals. So we'll see.
So the last year of your education has been affected by COVID. How does that also relate to your career in healthcare?
Yeah. So since my last year was affected due to COVID, we had to change a lot of our curriculum. We had to change a lot of things that we weren't used to. But in nursing, everything is changing, so nothing is ever going to be exactly the same. So learning how to adapt to change early on is good for when you go into your actual nursing career. But learning online lecture-wise was hard because nursing is a very hard major. You have to be able to understand things. And in my opinion, interacting with the professors in person was a better way for me to learn. So I just had to study harder and longer versus if it was in person, I wouldn't have to study as much because I wasn't teaching myself. But for clinicals, which is like when you actually go to the hospital and learn on the floor, we just had to wear masks. That's it. Nothing really was different other than the masks. We just didn't get to take COVID patients, which is fine.
As you said, like this year has been kind of like tough on you. So like what got you through those times?
Oh yeah. I would say for nursing school, it's just knowing that I had the friends that I had in nursing school. We're all going through the same change. We're all in this hard time right now together. So being able to bounce off ideas with them, study with them still like over Zoom still made things seem somewhat normal or as normal as it can be. But then for myself only, like how I would make myself feel better in times, I would FaceTime my sisters because obviously they weren't in the same state as me. And then I like to read and like work out. So I do things that were good for me to de-stress and stuff.
Why did you go to Ball State University, and did you like learn through virtual, or did you like go to Indiana and learn?
Yeah. I went to Ball State. Well, I wanted to go out of state, and so I applied to 4 colleges, and then I just decided to choose whichever gave me the best financial aid. And I actually got half of my tuition paid for at Ball State, so I just took that. So technically, instead of going for 42,000, I went for 24 or something like that. And then I actually I didn't live in Indiana, but I stayed in the dorms for 3 years, and then I got an apartment. So I would only come home on summer and winter break.
Like during COVID times, we've seen a lot of college students like complain about how the university was like lacking certain things. How did like COVID affect your school personally?
My school was actually really good about adapting to COVID. They offered free vaccines for us. They offered free COVID testing 24 hours a day. They offered, if someone got COVID, they offered a hotel that they paid for them to stay in to quarantine. We had, what else did we get? We had a thing on our website where you can look at and see how many people have COVID around the campus. So you can choose to either obviously go to campus or not. And then everything was virtual except for if you lived in the dorms, you just had to wear a mask and social distance.
Do you see any long-term effects of COVID in the healthcare field, and how do you think that's gonna affect you in your future?
Do you mean like patient-wise or just in general? Sorry.
Both patient-wise and in general.
Okay. In general, I think that vaccines are going to be required, which is going to be hard to enforce that regulation because people don't believe in getting the vaccine, which is their belief, and they can believe what they want. So that could be tricky because nurses might even quit if they're forced to get a vaccine or feel forced to get the vaccine. I think that we're going to have to wear masks for at least until 2022, if not 2023, which I don't really mind. You know, patients come in with other illnesses, the mask protects you. And then patient-wise, the long-term effects of COVID, it actually damages, if you have it severely, it damages your lungs, which will lead to more problems in the future. So if a patient comes in and they survive COVID, but their lungs have a lot of white spots in it, they shouldn't smoke anymore. It's going to make it worse. They might have to be on a machine called a CPAP, which they have to sleep because they don't get enough oxygen when they're sleeping, which is long-term. So that can be hard because if patients don't wear it at night, then they're going to come back into the hospital. So it's just going to create more future problems and cause more future illnesses for those patients.
In the media wise, we've seen people of color kind of disproportionately be affected by COVID. So what can healthcare professionals do to prevent that?
That's a good question. When I was in Indiana, I decided to make a group of people, nursing students. I came up with a program to provide vaccines to those in the community that wanted them. And I made it open to the Black community first because they might not have the transportation, they might not have the funds, and so we got to give the vaccine for free through my school. But I offered them the chance to get it first, and so we gave our first round of vaccines to predominantly the older Black population. So a lot of them came in and got their vaccines first because they usually wouldn't be able to get it. And then next is the next older population, like other half of the population. So that's the rest of the older people, because they are the ones that will die first if they do not get the vaccine. So having them get it first protected them, if that makes sense.
What are your plans post-graduation?
I am currently studying for my boards, which is the NCLEX. So you take that, and then if you pass that, then you're certified as an actual registered nurse. So I'm studying for that right now. And then I'm also doing a lot of interviews for different units. So I have 2 job offers, but I don't know which one I want to take. So I'm just going to hold off for right now until I pass my NCLEX. But basically, I have a job already.
Is there any advice you want to give people who want to go into the healthcare field?
The advice I want to give is kind of aimed at more Black people, Black youth. I want them to, well, actually, mainly Black youth and other youth of color, because we don't see a lot of us in there. And I think that taking care of someone that looks like you makes you feel better as a nurse or healthcare provider, or even as a patient, seeing someone that looks like you taking care of you, you know, you have some sort of trust with them, and that you know that you can say what you want to them, and then they will probably, or they should, give you the best care that you deserve. What else? I think it is a hard field, especially nursing, because we have different grading curriculum. So if you have a C, it's technically a D. So it's kind of hard to pick and choose how you want to study to get the grades that you need. But I think go for it if you have the motivation. It's all about time management and motivation. If you know that you're not a motivated student, I wouldn't choose healthcare because it's going to be hard to adapt. But if you think that you can do it, then I think you should do it.
As we're coming to a close, we want to thank you, Kiana, for spending your time with us today. It was very nice hearing from you and learning more about your career field and your activism. Also, thank you to the viewers who watched us talk with Kiana today, and we hope you all have an amazing day. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you all for tuning in. Thank Kiana Williams for coming on the show today. Thank our youth interns for conducting a great interview. Tune in again this Sunday for a replay of this interview and for more news and important information that you can use right here on the Train Cruise Show, 94.1 FM, Frogtown Tuned In Radio. Have a great weekend. Peace.
Thank you.
Thank you.